I'm ChosenArchitect, and this is All the Mods 10. So up to this point, we have been working our way towards the All the Mods star. My ultimate goal is to complete said star. It's going to take a lot of work to do that. And today, I think we're going to be diving into, in my opinion, one of the most powerful mods in the entire mod pack. And that's kind of why I've been holding off till now to set it up. And as you may have already seen by the thumbnail and, well, of course, the title, we're going to be diving into industrial foregoing. But I'm not going to be going about it my typical way, as today we are essentially going to be speedrunning this. That's right, you heard me correctly. We're going to be gathering every fluid needed and also potentially making some bees for it. That's right, I want to be able to speedrun all of this stuff, and within this one episode, cover the entirety, well, almost the entirety of the base industrial foregoing mod. And for good reason. We have access to a mod in here called Industrial Foregoing Souls. You heard me correctly, and Industrial Foregoing Souls lets us tick accelerate blocks permanently, meaning that we can have permanently upgraded machines producing all kinds of resources. And we are going to need specifically nether stars for that All the Mod star. And we might as well get started with that as soon as possible. So this is going to help me in that journey of getting that up and running. And I want to do everything basically in this room. Now, some other things we're going to need to have the industrial foregoing for is going to be making the unobtainium vibranium alloy. It's actually required in the dissolution chamber, which is not too bad to get. But on top of the dissolution chamber here, we're also probably going to want to eventually set up the mycelial generator. This is going to generate 25 million FE for us just passively, which is going to be very nice. And you didn't hear me stutter. I said 25 million. Now, on top of all that, what else makes this very, very powerful is it produces liquid meat. And this means that I can sustain myself indefinitely because of industrial foregoing, meaning that I will have permanent full saturation all the time. Now, before I can really do this, I'm going to have to get that infrastructure set up. So in industrial foregoing, the first thing that we need to do is get latex, and that's going to require the fluid extractors. And I'm going to need, I would say, about give or take 8 of them. You can do it with 1, but honestly, make more if you can, because it will speed up the process of gaining that fluid. Now, I want to place these fluid extractors just like so. And the reason why I'm placing them like this is so that way we can place a log in between. And the best log for this is going to be acacia logs. And we're also going to want to power these. And I should be able to give the machine acacia logs by using our wood essence, right? Now I just simply need a way to send those logs to this position. And for that, I want to try the advanced block placer, because this should give me the ability to place blocks in a defined area. For example, this area right here, it should be able to place all of those blocks without, like, just within whatever bounding box we say to fill blocks. So let's go ahead and like increase this value, bring this down, and you can see right here, we are now going to place blocks in this defined area right here. Like, how cool is that? Just slap some power on it like this. And I also think this lets us like change the orientation of said block that gets placed in here. And then the filter slot, by the way, I'm almost positive is a way for us to filter what block these get placed on. That's kind of how that block filter works. Or I guess inversely, it'd be what blocks the blocks can't be placed on. So by simply putting on an export bus and putting myself a crafting card in here with acacia logs and then hooking the cables up, this should be ready to rock and roll. Okay, so I'm going to run that just like so. And there we go. That placed 1, 2, 3, and 4. Wow. Okay. So this is so much easier than it used to be. Honestly, Just Dyer's Things has made this a super easy thing to set up. Now to power them, I'm just gonna slap on some gates here, and the power does matter. They will work without power, but it makes this a whole lot faster if you do put the power on here. Now this latex that it's producing is gonna be one of the more important things that we're gonna need a ton of. And thankfully we can speed these 8 machines up once we actually get our first upgrades. But to be able to make our first dissolution chamber, we're gonna need plastic, which is actually what we're working on making right now. which requires us to make dry rubber. This is actually made, even though JEI is not showing us, it is made inside the latex processing unit, which does require water, but thankfully no longer requires a latex bucket to make the machine. Now, I'm definitely going to want to store this latex, so I'm going to pull a bucket of it out now that we have it. It was actually made rather fast, and I just want to hook up a drawer and make sure I lock it. I got to find where my fluid drawers are stored. Here it is. And we are going to store our fluids directly in our fluid storage. And I just need to place this in here. Make sure to lock it with the configuration tool. There we go. And then I'll just add it to my drawer network. So now with it added, I can actually use an ME interface to get the fluid piped into here. And personally, I really enjoy using these mechanical pipes because, well, you can see through them. And there we go. With that connected like this, we can just use a wrench or a configurator and set these to extract. Perfect. And that is going to pull all of that out and just automatically insert that into that drawer in which we can upgrade. And you know, honestly, this is a really clean way of setting this up now, especially with the Just Dyer's Thing mod. I mean, you could always also use modular routers. You just need, I believe, more than one modular router. Now, something I do want to mention, alternatively to the Acacia logs, you can actually use mangrove logs, and apparently that is about the same rate. So now let's talk about this latex processing unit, because this thing has always given me some trouble. Because it has two fluid input ports, it has one for water and one for our latex. It doesn't always like receiving both types of fluids. But I do want to try this and see if we can't export water into this and also export the latex into this. Now we might have to define an area. Okay, so the water is going in. So now let's also try latex inside of the exporter and see if I can get both of them going. Now I only want this going for a little while. Let's see, will it work? And so as of right now, I'm going to give that a big no. Doesn't seem like it's wanting to send latex in as well. And that might be due to this not being set to round robin. So with the round robin mode, yes, it does want to send both. Alternatively, it would actually only send water to here and fill this first. Then it would start working on latex. But if you turn the round robin, the scheduling mode on, it works a little bit differently. So now you can see it's actually sending this. Now, something else we should be able to send through the export bus is power. We just have to gather our power from our grid here. And like I said, we can hit A on this and we'll get this, this wrapped generic stack, which is kind of a weird thing that happens, but we can pull this and it will now send FE into here as well. And this is a way that we can actually send power through an export bus into our machines. So if you followed along last episode, that makes this setup incredibly simplistic. I guess the only thing missing now is to send this back into our ME port, right? And to do that, pretty straightforward. Our output, let's just say the back is going to push, and that is where our output is going to go. And we'll just use an import bus. And I'm going to dig out a hole, send that into the back, but we're actually going to use cable covers to cover this up and make it look really nice. So an import bus in the back and placing our cables in here, we get this sort of look, but we can actually put a cable cover right here, which will make this look really good. And so to do this, we just need to take any of our blocks and surround it with anchors and we'll get a cable cover facade. And they are typically hidden by default, but whenever we place it like this, notice it goes right through, allowing us to decorate and hide things. This is a great example of that. Now, the issue with using an import bus on this particular machine, like I said, it always has given me problems, is by default, all of these ports are enabled. They are turned on, which means that the import is actually trying to pull water and also pulling out our latex, causing a loop. And this can be a little bit of a problem. So on the back, I'm just going to make sure to disable that port. And it shouldn't, I say shouldn't, but it should not allow us to access that port anymore. And when that's not working, which I did not see it actually disabling it for some reason, even with the importer, I guess there is just that issue. You can always use an interface. I think interface might actually be a better alternative here, and it'll allow us to get over that weirdness, right? And making sure this is just set to push And now the output is the only thing that is actually going to get pushed out of the machine. Now, definitely want to take that dry rubber and store that inside of our drawer. This is one of those items that are just going to be generating passively, and we're going to probably need a lot of it down the road. And now for the most important block in the entirety of Industrial Foregoing, the dissolution chamber, which allows us to craft everything. Now, I've gone ahead and made a smelting recipe for the plastic, turning the dry rubber into plastic. There we go. And also made the cog gears and dissolution chamber. Here we go. And I tell you, this has got to be one of the easiest machines to automate, because much like everything else, we can just simply place it directly onto a pattern provider like so. And all we have to do is we have to tell it where the inputs go. By default, just leaving it the way it is works. The fluid inputs, leaving it the way it is works. The outputs, however, this does need to change a little bit. We're going to have this set to push on the down. And honestly, everything else can just be left alone. Now, an induction card is going to give this some power, and it's going to provide us power directly through our pattern provider. There we go. And voila, this thing is ready to go. Now, it's like getting over this hurdle is kind of one of the big things at the beginning, but now that we have a little plastic built up, I'm going to disable the latex from going into here so it can build up in our storage, because we're going to need it to make our first upgrades, which will make this sustainable. And those upgrades are going to come in the form of the speed tier 2 add-ons. I don't really recommend making the tier 1s, as those are kind of a lower tier if you don't happen to have the diamonds for it at the time. But this right here is all we're going to need. We just have to make sure that all of this is sort of ready to go. Notice, by the way, there is a version that lets you use the base to upgrade. But yeah, we're really going for this one. And we have everything ready to go here for AutoCraft, it looks like, except for sugar, right? So I'm going to go ahead and craft this. And notice it automatically will send that latex. And this is why building the recipes in here for these pattern providers is just so good. And this right here will automatically send the fluids, send the exact required amount of ingredients in here, and then it will output and then repeat. Just in case though, you can always turn on blocking mode, and this will check if it has the base amount of crafting ingredients in here first before trying to send a new set. I'm almost positive though it's smart enough to handle it without that, but just in case. So I just went ahead and requested my first 4 speed upgrades, and these speed upgrades actually are not going to go in this machine. They are going to go immediately into our fluid extractors. Believe it or not, this is actually the slowest part of getting into Industrial Foregoing, but once you have this like basic setup here, I tell you what, you are not going to need anything else, and this will have you set up and ready to go all the way through in-game of this mod. Now, thankfully, we can actually insert by shift right clicking the upgrades directly into the machines now. So this speeds this up significantly, and it's only going to start producing more and more and more, which means we can upgrade more and more, because each upgrade is going to cost an entire bucket of latex. Now, of course, I've been saying the word latex quite a bit in today's episode, so let me know how many times I've said it in the comments down below by the end of this episode. Also, while you're down there, might as well click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Oh yeah, and did you know I have a second channel called Chosen Live? Yeah, you can find it here on YouTube, and there's actually even more content over there, so I would definitely check that out. And you might as well give that a subscribe while you're there too. Now, once these bad boys are fully upgraded, we can really start to see the fluid getting sent in here. And you can see how quickly these are now processing. But the real indicator right here is just the throughput and the amount of latex that's actually increasing now. So yeah, this is definitely a usable amount. It looks like we're generating about a bucket every few, like, I don't know, 5 seconds or so. Yeah, which is really, really good and is going to sustain us for sure. Like, I can definitely turn this back on now. And honestly, just leaving this without upgrades and just letting it run its course is going to be more than sufficient. So now our next step, right? We have to gain 2 other fluids. That is mainly going to be pink slime, which is going to be our next sort of progression line in this mod, which is going to allow the dissolution chamber to craft higher tier frames. Because at the moment, we can craft better frames for other machines, and is what you would actually need to craft, well, this thing that we actually get gifted for free, which is the Mob Slaughter Factory. So this is how we're going to get that. So this right here allows us to essentially squish mobs and turn them into paste. Yeah, that it's exactly, we've been doing that a lot, it seems like, in these mods. Next addition for Farmer's Delight is going to be an add-on for this mod that allows us to make different mob type soups. Oh wait, that exists as well. For this, we should be able to utilize any of our mob farms. And now that we have nether stars, yes, we can make these mob farms indefinite now. So they'll just continue to work regardless if we are around or not. Now, this particular spawner, I actually happen to have a rabbit in here, and that's going to be more than fine. But what I don't typically want is this to be crushing. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead for right now and break this. That should have gotten absorbed and probably deleted everything. Yeah, let's actually take this out temporarily because all of those upgrades just got destroyed. But now we can actually go ahead and place our mob slaughter factory right down here instead. And it's fine if it's right here in the center. This actually doesn't need anything specific other than just power and somewhere to send fluids. By default, though, the range on this, well, isn't very good. Yeah, it's only this one little block space, but we can actually make a range upgrade that'll extend this. Now, the best way to think about these range upgrades is each +1 that you see right here, or each plus on the number, is essentially going to be expanding the box outward from that center location. So for example, the first tier add-on will turn that single 1x1 space into a 3x3, and then it goes to a 5x5, and then it'll go to a 7x7, and then eventually it'll end up going all the way up into a 9x9 and continuing all the way up to +12. So I think in reality, all I'm going to be using here is a +2. And it doesn't fill the entire area, but we only need to capture the mobs are all going to get pushed into that center point anyways, which is going to work out just fine. So this is going to produce 2 different types of fluids, and believe it or not, this will actually produce more pink slime because it is a passive mob. So it being a rabbit will produce more pink slime than it will produce the liquid meat, which is another fluid that we're going to be producing here. Both of these fluids, though, we kind of want them going into a dimensional tank, and I want this set to 2, which is actually what we're using. This is the frequency we're using to handle all of our different types of fluids. Now, I honestly wonder how long-term this solution will be. I wonder, like, if there's going to be a point at which, like, we won't be able to keep up with the fluids incoming. I'm sure that will be a case, and in that case, we can always maybe expand and possibly have more than one dimensional tank on our main input line, just having it set to a different frequency. Now on this, I'm just going to set the left and right to be push on both meats, and then we turn it on and we just let this rip. So yeah, this is going to slowly take these guys out. It's not going to be super fast at first, but that's where those upgrades are going to come into play. And notice this is sending liquid meat as of right now, and we don't have anywhere to put it just yet, because we are going to need a bucket of each type. I completely forgot about that. Ooh, you know what? I should definitely turn that off probably. Oh no, wait, we can use a bucket, right? Oh, that's right. Okay, so yeah, let's go ahead and just make 2 separate buckets. This one for here, and then for pink slime, I have no idea what we're going to do yet. Maybe I can pull pink slime out whenever it does fill up to 1 bucket, because we're going to have to convert that drawer and to be able to support these fluids going in. So we have to make sure we set and lock those drawers up. Okay, so perfect. I now also have a pink slime bucket. There we go. We can go ahead and boop that one there, boop the pink slime there, and perfect. So liquid meat is so powerful, by the way. It's going to be very useful, I think, to me down the road. I think it's going to make us actually invincible if set up correctly, by the way. So there we go. Now that that is added, those should go up, and we should start seeing liquid meat increasing and pink slime increasing, and nothing backing up. Okay, and perfect. Yeah, it does seem like it is working and all of our fluids are being handled. This, however, is a bit of a problem. Now, I definitely want these upgraded. There we go, put 2 each, but also voided. That's going to be the important part, is being able to void fluids, and this makes that super simple. But there we go. Now with this upgraded, it is now functioning as it should. Now with those fluids made, pink slime being the one, we can now get into ether gas, which is the, in my opinion, final tier of fluid that we are going to need in order to make the highest tier casings. And yes, we're actually already at that point, believe it or not. So I've dug this hole. Yes, and this is actually where I'm going to house the actual wither that we are going to use to get ether gas. And I know it's dangerous, but we can protect ourselves just a little bit. Now, if all is correct, what I want is I want just enough room, and I think this is enough room. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blocks deep. This I think will be more than enough. I want all of this container area right here. I want this to be comprised of these new Luminex blocks. I think I said that right. These are basically the anti-block replacements that are in the pack. And here we go. I'm going to get this all set up. This is going to look very, very bright and shiny, but this is actually going to be covered with tinted glass, and this will actually prevent withers from bothering us. So yeah, just to give it some definition here, this is what it's going to look like. Now, I know this is a bit trippy looking, but this right here, beautiful. just like that. And in high hopes that this will hopefully protect our base, and this is just in case the thing that we're going to use to hold the wither in place ever fails. And that thing is the stasis chamber, which is going to require an advanced machine frame, one of the few things that's actually going to be utilizing that pink slime, and we're going to actually need that as well whenever we make our fluid lasers. So I'll place my stasis chamber right here. I'm going to drop down, and underneath is where I'm actually going to power it, and then just fill it back in. Beautiful. And now this covers this entire area, which is the exact place that the wither is going to be spawned in. Now, just to make sure that this gets placed in the right position, it needs to go exactly 3 blocks up, and we are going to go ahead and place in our fluid laser base. This goes right on top. And then I guess connected directly to this, I can go ahead and just simply place these facing directly into this. Alternatively, I could place them on the walls out here, but it doesn't really matter in this. We're going to have a tank on here that is going to be just fine, and we should be able to access everything. The only other thing left is the purple lens, which is what's required in order to actually drain the wither. And we'll be able to see this right here. Ether gas is the thing we want, the final tier fluid, and it can be in between any of these, and the dimension is basically any. And which we're going to do it right here in the overworld, right in our base. So purple lens and also ether gas. Now, the other issue is, like, when there's a wither, we'll end up having ourselves a boss bar. Thankfully, there is a mod in here that will prevent that. And that is this lovely thing right here, the Wither Boss Death Muffler. And it says right here, it stops wither boss death sounds within 8 block radius. But also, if you right click, it'll hide the boss bar, which is something we want to do. And you know what? I might actually just place this right here, kind of out of the way and hidden. And then we'll go ahead and put the shades on and cover it back up. Now, each of these laser drills are going to need power, so I'll just slap on a gate. And there we go. So this is technically up and running and is processing. We don't have any upgrades in any of the lasers, but once we get the wither spawned in, the stasis chamber should lock it in place, much like it's locking me in place right now. Oh my goodness, that negative speed is kind of crazy, but it should lock it in place, and we should be able to now farm this. And man, I tell you what, should is such a big word to be using here, because this is a very scary thing to do. But let's go ahead and, I guess, spawn the wither. Oh boy. All right. I did go ahead and place lights here, but I'm going to remove those. There's that. And no coming back from this. It is what it is. It is contained in this area. And it should, like, spawn, and we can always disable the sounds in this area. But I'm hoping that we're all good. Yeah. So notice, by the way, it hasn't blasted or anything, and that's because of the stasis chamber. It is going to make that noise. And we should now, be producing ether gas, which is beautiful. Now, I recommend creating a pretty large area. I set this to, I think it was supposed to be 64. I guess 32 is as big as it goes, but I set the area and I just have the wither ambient disabled. Yeah, that sound would get old quick. Another issue, though, is everything when the wither is spawned becomes slightly darker. And this is where, yes, I have this in here, but this is really just going to be temporary. I don't want the wither to stay in my base forever. This is just going to be just enough. And also, I'm going to leave it in the floor as like a relic of the past. But we should be able to use this ether gas we're gaining here and use bees for it instead. As much as I love the eerie feel that this gives off, yeah, I don't want this looming permanently in our base. Now, something I just noticed when taking a look at the bees, yeah, I think this just made it significantly more challenging to do. And that's because the amber encased wither. Yeah, that's a bit of a problem. And something that I'm definitely not going to be working on today. So what I might instead do is just simply cut this out of existence here and just move it into the end, which is actually where I normally do this, because I don't think I'm going to be able to handle this darkening down here. Now, if I want to move this, since now I have a bit of this going, can I actually use like a creature catcher to catch the wither? Yeah, I actually can. So I've gone ahead and moved this, and let's hope that placing this back here will be just fine. Okay. Whew. So yeah, we were actually able to move the wither as well. Okay, is this actually grabbing it? Yes, it is. And I'm just sending it to the dimensional tank, by the way, and I also went ahead and just chunk loaded this area, and this is contained directly in here, so we shouldn't have to worry about it but thankfully it being in this dimension is a little less of a worry than having it really anywhere else. And it's actually right by our portal over here. I guess you live and learn. I completely forgot about the darkness part of the wither being summoned in your base. Oh, I definitely don't want that effect, but the ether gas is being produced now and we can actually see it going up, meaning it is working. And this is what's going to be needed to move forward. And it's going to allow us to make some really cool things, like some higher tier processing upgrades, which will be definitely useful in like machines that allow us to generate resources passively. But not only that, this is actually used, if I remember correctly, for the cases, and these supreme cases are actually going to be utilized in making the Wither Builder, which we definitely need, but the Souls mod also. And I'm 100% going to want to make the Soul laser base down the road. Yes. Okay, this actually just requires the advanced machine frame. I'm kind of surprised by that, but we are going to need it for other things too. For example, that Wither Builder, which is required in the star, right here underneath the Wither's compass. So now one of the primary reasons for actually getting into this outside of the Altamont star would definitely be for the ore laser base. And I think I want to get some of these set up, right? And start producing. Now we can actually generate a ton of the vibranium ore, the altamodium ore, all of that through the use of a pick inside of very specific places, like for example, the Int Highlands. And this has to be probably one of the fastest ways to generate this resource right here. I mean, bees are good, right? And mystical agriculture is good, but this by far, generating the raw ore material itself has to be one of the best ways. So this is something that I definitely plan on having and being produced, which is going to be fantastic. And it also allows us for ore processing, which I think is why it makes it even better. Then of course I can't forget ancient debris, because there are a ton of ways that we can actually generate ancient debris, and we can also go backwards to generate this, but to just generate it passively in the nether, this has got to be one of the best ways, and is actually utilized to make netherite scrap, which, believe it or not, scrap we need. And as of right now, we don't have a mystical agriculture way of generating scrap. We could make ancient bees. That would actually be a pretty good way of doing it, but this is one other alternative. Now, if you've made it this far through this episode, you're in for a treat, because all you have to do to sustain yourself as a player is simply by making a meat feeder. And something cool that you can do, it holds a ton of this liquid meat. You can just shift right click and it will consume all of the liquid meat that is inside of the drawer, filling this up. And then you just need to have this in your head slot, which at the moment I have this in a curio slot. It can go into any slot, but put it in the head slot. And what you're going to notice is we will sustain saturation permanently, like actually permanent. Like we're not going to have the need for this advanced feeding upgrade anymore. For example, I can run around and you can actually watch my saturation bar dip down, or it doesn't, right? Because as soon as it dips down, it immediately goes back up to full saturation again. That's right. As long as we have this on us, we will maintain full saturation. I don't even think it has to be, by the way, in our head slot. It will work regardless. So if you want that head slot free for something else, you can just keep it in your inventory. And by the way, this can be automated, like automated pulling out of your inventory and back in. So if you do run out, if you happen to run out, this holds a lot, by the way. If you do happen to run out, just keep in mind that, yeah, modular routers can automate the player's inventory. Just one simple way of doing it. And this, by the way, combined with things like recovery, will make us so that way we basically don't take much damage at all. Or when we do, we're going to be immediately regenerating our health anyways. So yeah, when it solely just relies on you having food, any damage isn't really going to do anything anymore. So yeah, I would call it at this point us basically being nearly invulnerable. And so if you've slept on the power of the mighty meat feeder, now would be the time to take a deeper look at this thing, because it is so worth it. So of course, if you love injecting yourself with meat, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and well, give this video guys a huge thumbs up. And I look forward to seeing you, of course, in the next episode, where we dive in a bit more into some magical things, but I hope you guys will be there. And of course, comment down below, how many times do you think I said what I said? And let me know, like I mentioned earlier, right? How many times did I say latex? Oh, there's another one. Anyways, guys, I thank you so much, and it's now time to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that amazing thanks is going to go out to Shifty B Hub. Thank you so much, by the way, for your amazing support and choosing to support me over on the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and supporting in one of the best ways possible. Oh man, I thank you guys all so very much. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.